Good evening, everyone, and welcome to day number 614, October the 30th, 2023, 9:01 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 3:01 a.m. in Ukraine. They did vote for this year to change time again. Remember, we were talking about they were not. They decided to do that. They just fell back. Welcome to all of you guys. Raccoon, you get the first award tonight. Welcome to you. King, Desade, you guys in here talking about the war. Janet Smith, Linda Cassio, Ricochet, Mark McLaren over there across the pond with Raccoon Skeg. Head down under. I went to school with a guy named Juan Head. He was a great basketball player. Mark McLaren, except those who line their pockets. That's correct. Everybody's getting rich from war. Carl L. Welt, thank you, brother, from Vegas. And yes, hit the like, hit the share, all of those things. JD Oak, one of our moderators, welcome to you. Chuck Pinkham out there in San Jose. Fody family, Cali, Vacaville, California. Don Gentilini, you're welcome, sir. Lynn Fireball, Harold, Mr. Baseball, all of you guys, thank you for being here tonight. Huge update. I did get some stuff in the mail. I love it when this stuff comes right here. Enjoy your gift from R. Dixon. Send a thank you note. So, R. Dixon, whoever you are, thank you. He sent a whole package of tourniquets, Cat 7s, medical supplies, the real deals. And I can tell you, I was talking to Xenia tonight. I'm going to modify the Amazon list. Desperate need for tourniquets. So I'm going to carry a lot of those over or ship them over. It's bad. So thank you for the tourniquets. Appreciate that. And we'll start here tonight. We'll start with the live air raid alert. I'll go here for you guys right now. This is where we start tonight. At the beginning of the update, Donetsk under air alarm, Kharkiv, Cherkasy in Vinnytsia. So it'll be interesting to see. I have learned that when you see the air raid like this, typically it's recon drones in the air, because you do not see the Shaheed icon or you do not see missile. You see just red. So we'll see, and we'll keep up with that during the night. So tonight I've got a lot of stuff. In fact, I've got some really, really interesting news I'm going to share with you guys. The connection with the Coast Stream in Great Britain is coming together very well. It takes time. And additionally, pretty confident. Well, I'm not confident. I know it's going to happen. I'm going to be interviewing, maybe this week, a guy out of Bethlehem, Israel. And he actually is a Palestinian Christian from Gaza originally. Very, very interesting. So, you guys be ready for that incredible perspective. And hey, we get you the real stuff. So lots of years and lots of friends. Here we go. This is a map showing the last 3 weeks. All the reports coming out of Ukraine over the last day or two are saying the same thing, that the last 3 weeks since October the 7th, when Hamas invaded Israel, have been the best 3 weeks of the war for Russia. And they have not only been able to reinforce, but they are beginning some offensive actions. So I have a map here for you to show you. Russia is pushing on Kupiansk. That's the uppermost city. We talk about that one quite often. Additionally, Russia, and this is just within the last really 12 hours or so, Russia has started an offensive again in Bakhmut, not trying to hold the line, but now trying to push the line. And if that happened and they are able to push, you guys know that they're going to be going for Ivanivsky. Let's do this right here. So they're pushing back out of Bakhmut, and well, you can see it represented on the map with the one little red arrow there, but they're starting to push, and it's not the same troops that have been there the whole time, but it's actually fresh troops that they've been able to rotate in. Additionally, if I come down here, and then we'll go back to the other image, but Avdiivka, we're getting ready to see an assault right here in Avdiivka against the coke plant. They're already, of course, shelling it and ripping it, but we're talking about, let me move that over for you guys. We're talking about forces, boots on the ground, and try to take that coke plant, because if they take the coke plant, then it's over. It's that big, and they could fortify it that well. Additionally, tonight, speaking about Avdiivka, I was talking to Zhenya just a few moments. That's not, oh yeah, you're right. Well, if you email R. Dixon, make sure you say thank you. Ricochet. All right, so here's the news on Avdiivka. It's going to fall. Done. Doesn't matter what you're reading, it's going to fall. Just like we told you Bakhmut was going to fall. It took, weeks. But Avdiivka is going to fall. That's information within the last 2 hours. It's sad to say. Now, down toward Tokmak, Russia is pushing again, and this is trying to bottle up Ukraine, where they have pushed in. If I go back to here, this is that zone. And for this map, for Deep State, what's really interesting is typically when Ukraine is pushing, they'll color it blue. Then once it's locked, meaning, okay, Ukraine is really holding this territory and has reclaimed it, they move it to the green color. And that's here. So Russia has began a push back, not only, it's better for me to say, up here close, Robitny, Verbovi. If you remember, Ukraine had pushed into Verbovi with early assaults, but that's been stopped. But they're actually pushing out of Tokmak, and they're pushing additional forces into that region there. Down here, yes, Ukraine got a couple positions on the left bank, but it's the same story, guys. It's the same story. If you come down the river, you see Berislav, that has the red circle. The red circle is the city of Berislav up from Kherson, where we do a lot of work in Berislav. They are now powerless. No power. Population of Berislav. Pretty decent size city. Yeah, 12,000. So probably now at least 5,000 or 6,000 still there. But it's powerless, and do not know when that will be repaired. Additionally, Kherson, the attacks on the city itself are nonstop, and the attacks are not military targets, but actually they are just random targets. For example, in the last 24 hours, Russia hit the library. The library was already closed, boarded up, sealed up. They destroyed it, put a missile right through it, S-300. They hit a commuter bus, 7 people wounded. It's every day. So that's what's happening. And for Ukraine, the last 3 weeks since the war in Israel has started has been a little tough. President Zelensky under a lot of pressure. I can also tell you with full assurance tonight, this is a fact, that Ukraine is getting ready to change some of their military leadership. The results of the counteroffensive that have been going now for months, you guys know it. It's over. It stopped. Now, Ukraine is saying they're going to continue the counteroffensive through the winter. And a lot of that information was pre-Israel-Hamas war. So we shall see what unfolds there. Fortunately, if you saw the title of the program tonight, really have a good friend there in Great Britain. So all of our British friends in here, you will be happy to see that. Of course, you probably already know. Now, Ukraine is going to be changing some very high-ranking military leaders. You're going to hear about it soon. I do not know who it is yet, but this is from Zelensky. They're going to be changing. They're not getting the results they need. So we shall see. When it happens, we'll talk about it. Now, this is a headline that states, and this is written in Ukrainian, it says, this is from the guy on the right, is the director for Ukraine of energy infrastructure. And he stated, if one more shell does not even hit any of our infrastructure, electrical, power producing plants, we're still going to be on rolling blackouts throughout the winter. Now, you guys know as well as I know, that's not going to happen. They're going to continue hitting infrastructure. And Susie Q says, I'm hoping Ukraine meant an eye for an eye when they said it. They do. They're gonna hit power in the regions that they have access to. No question. They're going to attempt to and probably will be successful. They have some weapons that can do it now. They also have collaborators. They have people behind the lines. They have forces in Russia. It'll happen. But if another plant is not even hit, Ukraine will be on rolling blackouts throughout the winter. So we shall see. Of course, once we get to the real cold, end of December, January, and February, I'm going to be there. We'll be streaming every day possible. It won't be Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Once I'm in Ukraine, it will be every day. And Zhenya and I were talking, really going to try to make as many of them live as possible. And I understand that puts us online at 4 a.m. We just have to adjust our schedule, and that's not a problem. So this is much better where we can interact. Speaking of interacting, I'm going to have some questions for you guys tonight. Now, this is the Lancet 2 drone. This is Russian. This is a new one. This is one of the problems that is flying around. This may actually be what's flying around right here. So you can see Vinnytsia still in the red, Mykolaiv, Kherson, Kharkiv, and Donetsk. So this Lancet 2 that you see the picture here is able to auto target, meaning it is able, and I don't understand the technology completely, but it's really able to avoid detection, therefore avoiding air defense, but relay the target information back to Russia very accurately. So this is a new Lancet. They're calling it the Lancet 2, and the main deal on it is it has the ability for auto targeting. So we'll see. This is probably why Russia has been able, at least a part of why Russia has been a little bit better able to hit targets, especially in the West. For example, last night, shipping port in Odessa boat repair port, a place there for boat repair, ship repair. It's basically destroyed. It was tore up last night. So we'll see. Russia's running some new technology, and we're going to talk about that in a second because I have a question for you guys. Now, we also, this is a Russian Shahed that they have put into action. This is an interesting angle. This is a picture from Ukraine, actually, where they were able to somehow recover this one. So you can see the little moped engine in the back. But you also see the words there. Very interesting. They look the same. So it would be on the rear flaps there. So on the side, you see the M770, and then you see Garin Dva, meaning second generation. And then you see two words that look similar. The left flap on the right side, and then the right flap on the right side. The one on the left says, "Do not touch." And the one on the right says, "We are not brothers." So just think about that. So number one on the left, "Do not touch." On the right, "We are not brothers." So I sent the message over to Zhenya to find out. I said, does that mean what I think it means? That Ukrainians and Russians, so when this is recovered or they blow up, they recover, and the Ukrainians are able to read, "We're not brothers." Does it mean, we're not brothers? Russia, Ukraine. He goes, absolutely. That's what the right flap means. And the left flap is "do not touch." Ukraine has copied it. I'm assuming you're talking about this one. And are finishing its development called Perun. The Lancet is hard to detect and relies on the other reconnaissance drones for both target spotting, signal relaying. Yeah. The Lancet is this one right here. This too. It's causing Ukraine some problems. Now, this right here, of course, is also causing Ukraine some problems. And with them able to get supply from Iran and also able to create their own, we see, I was expecting a better meaning for "do not touch." No, don't touch that flap. But on the right one, "no brothers." This is this is why they're able to shoot or release so many more. And we've been watching and wondering. It's every day. Welcome there, Jeffrey Burnett, another one of our moderators. Now, so far, listen, I have no comment on Speaker Johnson. I'm hoping he's going to be a good guy. He has a lot of values that I have, a lot of values that a lot of folks here share. But I'm not sure. He says he's going to continue to, support Ukraine, but I can tell you, he will support Israel first. So it's reported on many places that House Speaker Johnson says he'll introduce defense funding for Israel, but not Ukraine. So we'll see. All I'm telling you is this is out there now. We'll watch it. I do know he's and it's, this is where we stand, very Bible based. The Bible is his morality book, and he's going to stand with Israel first. So we shall see what happens and unfolds. We're going to see how the support continues for Ukraine. Now, I will tell you, it is interesting after these reports are coming out where he is stating, I'm with Ukraine, but we're definitely going to fund Israel before Ukraine. We knew that's going to happen. Okay. That's easy. America's going to support Israel way before they continue supporting Ukraine. But we'll see. Right now, it's staying the same. He did state, that's correct. Thank you for that, sir. He stated Putin cannot be allowed to win because he will not stop with Ukraine. That is correct. We're trying to be fair. We have to wait and see. We just evaluate as we can. He did make those statements, so we'll see. Now, with that, the Right Honorable Grant Shapps, this is the defense minister for Great Britain, just listen, you guys know me well enough now that I don't project. We do not chase conspiracies. Somebody corrected me the other day. It wasn't corrected me. Sorry for that. I kept saying, we don't get political. We don't get political. And then I don't remember who it was in the chat because I read everything live. Was saying, well, you can't talk about war because war is political. And very good point. Very good point. Touche. But it's just interesting for me on observations. So as this kind of news is coming out, and Rick Barry, you're right, his voting record doesn't always indicate support for Ukraine. So we'll see. He is the one that Trump wanted in there. You guys know where I stand on Trump in regard to Ukraine. He is, of course, talking today that Hungary, it has borders with Russia. I mean, doesn't even know basic geography. So no comment there, but we'll see. But it is interesting when we observe, and that's why I put it on the thumbnail, our speakers making these statements and Defense Minister of Great Britain saying this: Putin is hoping the world forgets the urgent need to support Ukraine. The UK will never let that happen. We will deliver more military support and bring our allies together to get Ukraine what they need to win. This was my message for Deputy Prime Minister Kubrakov today. So for Grant Shapps, thank you for that statement. Thank you for that statement. That was, it was right on time. Ukrainians needed to hear that. The Ukrainians needed to hear that because I'm going to be honest with you guys. The morale is lower today in Ukraine than it was 1 month ago. You guys, we tell you the truth. We tell you the truth. They're fighting. They're going to keep fighting. We're going to keep doing what we do until victory. But right now, we're on one of those low morale times, and that's what happened. So thankful to Defense Minister from Great Britain. Also, this is coming into play for Ukraine because Ukraine is very pro-Israel. Very, very pro-Israel. And Ukraine had been garnering a lot of support from Muslim nations. And now with their very direct statements of support for Israel, it may bite them on some of the support that they have been promised from nations. For example, Qatar. Qatar was helping Ukraine, not really militarily, but with other things, finance, humanitarian aid, medical, things that they need. Now, that's over. Qatar, they're done. They're not going to help. They're not going to help Ukraine anymore. So this is just what we're looking at, and we just have to watch it. We'll just have to watch, but we need to pay attention to it. Once again, another way, the war in Ukraine directly connected to the war in Israel. It is. Now, this is interesting. Polish carriers are going to block the border with Ukraine. Let me explain this to you. From November the 3rd through January the 3rd for 2 months, they're blocking the border. Desaid, Qatar did. That's exactly right. 100 million in aid. It's not coming. That's done. Temporary halt on all border with Ukraine due to excessive transport and simplification of international transportation requirements between Ukraine and the EU. The action is planned to be held 2 months starting from November the 3rd. Now, I know that people say, Poland's their best friend, their best ally, but man, they've been getting a little tough on Ukraine. Let me explain to you. That is not, for example, I'm going to fly into Warsaw and then Zhenya will either pick me up or I'll hop a train to the border. That's how I'm getting into Ukraine. Okay. But Poland is having some struggles economically due to the war in Ukraine and due to many of the EU allotments or liberties that they have given for Ukrainian products, such as grain exports coming via truck, not via rail. So in case you guys didn't know it, the rail lines in Russia and Ukraine and Belarus, you can't ride the same train into Europe. So when you're on a train and you leave Ukraine and you go to the border of Poland and you're going to continue on to Warsaw, you change trains because the tracks are a different gauge. The Soviet Union track system is a different gauge than the European system. So nothing moves on rail because they would have to unload the rail, reload the rail. It moves on trucks. And the amount of trucks, it's shocking how many trucks are always crossing that border into Poland, full, coming back empty. And Poland's putting a stop to it. It's affecting their economy. We shall see. Remember, I told you the morale's a little low right now. So just think, you're there fighting. If you're inside Ukraine, you're aware Avdiivka's going to fall. And you've put so many resources there to hold it, hoping that during that time of holding it, that other resources would come. And they have, but you haven't achieved the results you want. Then you have a war in Israel, and you see a lot of attention diverted there. And then, Poland comes out with this news. Zelensky is changing military leadership. We're just at a tough time right now. That amazes me about the rail system. Yes, sir. Ricochet, did I finally teach you something in here? Yes, former Soviet rail system. I thought transit through Poland was allowed. That shouldn't hurt Poland. That's correct. It was allowed and is allowed until November the 3rd. They're blocking it for 2 months. Now, on the economic side, Tim, I don't understand it because their economy is affected. First of all, Poland has the most refugees, and Poland has put a ton of money into Ukraine. Poland has put a ton of money into their own defense. Poland is a member of the EU. Poland stands with Ukraine, but we are 614 days into this war. And I can tell you, I do know their economy is suffering a bit from this. So how that affects their economy, I'm not an economist. I don't know. I just know this is what Poland's going to be doing. We'll learn more about it. This is really news just coming out. So we'll learn more. There's your Clown 1 and Clown 2. Orban on the right, Lukashenko on the left. Lukashenko now, after Orban's pity party at the EU, has now been invited to Minsk so that they can solve the problem with Ukraine and Russia. So that'll be interesting. Yeah, I agree with you guys. Okay, as I understand it, which gauge is larger, EU or Soviet bloc? As I understand it, Soviet bloc gauge is larger. And then the European gauge is smaller. Through transport should be beneficial. Yes, it is, I'm sure. Like you guys say, food, fuel, but there's more to it than that. I don't understand it. I'm just telling you. We'll see. We'll see. I will update you guys on the next piece of information I get on that. Now, the information war continues. This is plastered all over Russian media today. Tucker Carlson, episode 34, 19 hours ago, as I created this slide of all of Biden's crimes, Tucker stating, backing the Ukrainian government as it throws priests in jail may be the most revealing. And then Elon responds, priests are being imprisoned? Question mark. Okay, listen. I know that I repeat this every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And I will continue to repeat it every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. That right there is pure evil. Tucker is a traitor. And Elon is a narcissistic something. And they're really hurting Ukraine. You may say, how can those guys, just they're on Twitter or X talking, how can that hurt Ukraine? Because, my friends, so many people in the United States worship those two gentlemen. Many of the conservative, right, Christian, evangelical are lost in the Tucker Carlson lies and parade. And then many right, left, and middle between 20 and 45 worship the ground Elon Musk walks on. Tucker averages about 6 million views. And then when Elon responds, you're talking millions and millions and millions of people. It is not good. So this is what I have to deal with, and you do as you try to stand for the truth. I go to churches and speak, or I go to different places, and people come up to me, and it's one of the first questions they ask. So, does Zelensky really put priests in prison? And I'll ask them, so do you believe that? Oh, yeah, it's on Tucker. Oh, yeah, it's all over the news. I said, what news? What news? Have they been to Ukraine? Listen to me tonight. Ukraine does not put priests in prison. They put criminals in prison. And if the criminal is wearing a robe and he is a spy for Russia and he's selling out Ukraine, he's going to prison. But he's not going to prison for being a priest. He's going to prison for being a traitor. Period. That's it. I have a question for you guys. Okay? Now, all you military guys, Niels love Norway. Tucker would never have gotten any airtime in Norway. Beautiful. Oh, dude, listen. We had people on TV saying mass shootings at schools are faked. Listen. Oh, I got you going now. The U.S. has put many priests in prison. What's the point? Exactly, James. What's the point? The point is, these clowns have an agenda. And right now, they're able to do their thing. Vladimir Carlson and Musk. So we'll call it Vladimir Carlson and Dmitry Musk, because that'd be Dmitry Medvedev. Need to be exiled to Russia, enjoy the freedoms there. Americans don't fall for Russian propaganda inside the U.S. It's so simple. It's so simple that, people can't even believe it. They can't even believe it when we try to tell people the power of the Russian propaganda. Look here, guys. We're now into Zhytomyr. So definitely, most likely, those Lancets are flying around. That's what's happening. So we'll see. We'll keep an eye on it. I'm watching it right here in front of me. Now, I have a question for you guys out there, you military guys. U.S. News and World Report came out, and I've got it right here, that these countries have the strongest militaries. Number one is Russia. Number two is U.S. Number three is China. 4, Israel. 5, South Korea. 6, Ukraine. 7, Iran. 8, UK. 9, Germany. And 10, Turkey. We'll just leave it at the top 10. Okay. Am I missing something here? But and I tried to find out what their criteria was. Their GDP, 2.24 trillion, US 25 trillion, GDP per capita, 36,000, US 76, population 144, population US 333. How? So if any of you guys out there know, I mean, I'm going to answer it for you. But this is called Russian propaganda. You guys know as well as I know that we have the strongest military in the world. We have the greatest soldiers in the world. We have the greatest equipment in the world. I know our country is not the way it used to be, but we're still the strongest military. And that's not being disrespectful to all the viewers that are from other nations. You know, it's just the way it is. But how on earth could the U.S. News and World Report say Russia has the strongest military? For more on our, can see our methodology. Yeah, you can go in there and read it. But it doesn't make any sense. That I did look at that. That, my friends, the only way I can answer it is that is Russian propaganda. Therefore, I highly recommend to you guys that you would ignore all U.S. News and World Report's top 10 list. As you know, they come out with the top 10 colleges, the top 10 business schools, the top 10 companies, the top 10 execs, the top 10 everything. That's how they sell their magazines. Well, they are definitely pushing Russian propaganda because that's a joke. Now, I want to update you guys on Israel a little bit, and I got something to show you. Israel's unfolding plan is, if you look at this map, and I'm going to show you some connections tonight, once again, furthering our premise that this is all connected. Start at the top of that map. That's the location of Israel's initial entry into northern Gaza, up there at the red arrow. They went through that general line there. Now, today, some information came out that the next incursion or push into Gaza is going to actually be right below Gaza City there. And they're going to have a goal to break Gaza in half, to split it so that they can clean out Gaza and push civilians to the south and keep pushing them south and completely wipe out Hamas in the north and then systematically push down through Gaza. So we'll be watching to see if that happens, but we shall see. Now, I can tell you this as well. I said it earlier, but a lot more people in the stream now. I'm going to be interviewing a guy from Bethlehem. He's a Palestinian Christian who completely supports Israel, not for a two-state solution, understands it, knows Gaza, knows Israel. He's going to be coming on with me, and we're going to have a chat. It's going to be really good. So we're working on the logistics of that now. So that's where we're at on Gaza. Now, I know you guys saw it. I just want to bring your attention to it because I want to show you Putin's response. You guys are seeing it in the news. Some of you were talking about it before the stream started, but you just need to know this. There's Ukraine in the blue. There's Russia in the orange. There's Dagestan in the dark orange. So Dagestan is actually a republic of Russia. Yes, it has some sovereignty, but it is a republic of Russia. Their language, primary schooling is Russian. It's Russia, guys. Okay. Now, at that Makhachkala airport is where the hunt for the Jews was unfolding. It hit all of the news. The world's going crazy about it because we were instantly flashing back to 1939. All of these things were unfolding. They were moving the Jews to safe places in the airport, then trying to get them out. Then Israel comes out and says, we are calling all of our citizens anywhere in that Dagestan, in the Caucasus, in the region of Georgia, as Armenia, Azerbaijan, Dagestan, southern Russia, to get out of there and to come home. Because it's going to be difficult for us to guarantee your security. How can I forget to say that word? Anyway, Ukraine there in the blue. If you look at the neighbors to the left, you have Azerbaijan and Armenia. Right below that, you have Iran. To the left, you have Turkey. And then you can see how all this is so close. It's one of the things I like to share with you guys, especially if you're here from the United States or maybe Australia or some of our friends, Caucasus. Thank you. Some of our friends in large nations down there like Brazil that watch the stream, Australia. Listen, these areas over here, unless you get into Russia, and then it's the largest nation in the world by square kilometers or miles, but these places are very close together. For our understanding, these are close. So this is how things can break out really, really quickly. Now, Putin did respond to that. I'm just pulling out the clip where he blames Ukraine and the West. This is Putin's statement about the incident at the airport.
In Makhachkala last night, inspired through social networks and, of course, from the territory of Ukraine, through the hands of agents of Western Special Services. So I ask myself about these things. So is it possible to help Palestine by attacking Tatar people and their families?
So that's his story. That's what he does. He begins to bring into it about the Tatars, which is Muslims, and what can we allow, what can we not allow. He's trying to take the high road, but you heard his interjection there. Basically, this was done through social media platforms instigated by Western influencers through Ukraine. So there you have his viewpoint. Is that the old Ottoman Empire? Yes, sir. That's the old Ottoman Empire. It was the Persian Empire. Prior to that, yes. So Putin trying to put the blame onto Ukraine and the West for what happened at the Makhachkala airport. Now, isn't it interesting how the connection every day becomes clearer between Ukraine and Israel, and it's going to be tied through Putin, Russia, Iran, the nations, Syria, the terrorist organizations of Hamas and Hezbollah, Qatar. It's going to continue, and we're going to see it unfold in little bits and pieces until enough happens where these guys may join up. There's already advisors. I'm going to show you something tonight from former Hamas leader. It's translated in a second. So these are other statements. His statements was just way too long, so I didn't want to voice all that over, but I wanted you to hear him blame it on Ukraine and the West. But he also said these things. He said, when you look at bloody dead children, the suffering of the elderly, the death of doctors in the Middle East, your fist clench, but emotions are unacceptable. He's making a statement there about Gaza. Okay? Now, I would say this. Where are those statements and thoughts in regard to Ukraine? When you look at bloodied, dead children, the suffering of the elderly, the death of doctors in Ukraine, your fist clench, but emotions are unacceptable. I mean, is he that oblivious? Of course not. He's playing the game. He says, nothing can justify the bombing of hundreds of thousands of innocent citizens in Gaza. How about nothing can justify the bombing of hundreds of thousands of innocent citizens in Ukraine? It's unbelievable. They want to contain and destabilize their competitors using chaos, and that was a direct statement against the United States. He says U.S. elites and their satellites are the main beneficiaries of global instability. He stated, the USA wants to split Russia from within, weaken, and sow confusion. And he said the key to resolving the conflict in the Middle East is the creation of a sovereign, full-fledged Palestinian state. So guys, the beginning of this war in Israel, Putin was quiet, didn't even say a word. Now, day by day, you're getting more and more and more. And the things he states about Gaza or Hamas is the exact things he is doing to Ukraine. This is where we're at, and it's going to continue more and more. Let's see here. Yes, that's exactly right. Putin always accuses others of what he's doing. That's also what Hitler did. I'll probably get a strike for saying that. But it's the truth. Exactly, that's what they do. Now, you probably saw this. Elon Musk. Oh, the irony. Iran wants war. Look how close they put their country to our military bases. Okay, this man needs to go back to South Africa and leave our country. I don't care what good he's done. Get out of our country. You traitor. You and Tucker. You and traitors. Vladimir and Dmitry, Carlson and Musk. Oh, the irony. Now, the reason I show this to you guys is this. Could you be any more anti-American? Just wondering. And secondly, what I try to share every day is the power this person has. When the picture was cut, when I cut it, okay, at 11:06 a.m., October the 28th, already 6.8 million views. This is the message that floods the 20s, the 30s, and the early 40s in the United States on all parties, left, right, and middle, and they eat this stuff up. This is why there is chaos at our universities. This is why many professors throughout the United States are preaching hatred with no recourse. This is why we allow House of Representative members to hang Palestinian flags and show support for Hamas in our own Capitol building. Because of trash like this. And this is where it starts, because then that programs the constituents to believe this narrative. 6.8 million views. Musk has an American passport. Musk is South African. I think he has dual citizenship. I think. Regardless, that even makes it better. Ricochet, not an American, and you go spew this venom, get out of our country. Get out of our country. Oh, the irony. Now, listen, you ready? Look who responds. Elon Musk. Oh, the irony. Boom. Look who responds. Dmitry Medvedev. The guy, former president of Russia, who, if you think Putin's evil, this guy would make Putin look like Pee Wee Herman. This is a bad man, and bad there is negative connotation. Exactly, he says. But then there are also the Russians who are a threat to everything in the world. Don't forget. Twitter/X has become a propaganda machine for Russia, for war, for evil, and it's not good. So I promise you, the amount of views that this will have in Russia will be shocking. I mean, 148,000 retweets, and that's from seeing the post below Medvedev. 884,000 likes, and now look on the right, 100 million views. 100. He possesses Canadian, South African, and American citizenship. I'm confident he's got an American passport. So you're right. It's 3. Anyway, guys, I'm not going to stay on it, but I want you to know the truth. This just plays right into the game. Right into the game. Khalid Mashal. I'm going to validate for you the connection between Ukraine and Israel even more. This is Khalid Mashal. He is former Hamas leader. He's still a Hamas leader, but he was the official leader. But now he's still a leader of Hamas. He lives in Qatar, Doha, Qatar. And he is worth $5 billion. $5 billion this man's worth. Now, I have a video clip I was sent out of interview where he is talking about Israel, but then he talks about Ukraine and Russia and China. This is not Musk. This is not somebody in the Kremlin. This is not somebody in DC. This is Khalid Mashal in Doha, Qatar, talking about this. I have it's subtitled, and I voiced it over too. You've got both ways to watch this one. Guys, this is reality right here.
There is no doubt that if Hezbollah joins in, it would make a real difference. And we hope that this happens, but the decision is theirs. Since the beginning of the Zionist aggression and this genocidal war, they have kept the enemy busy in the northern Palestinian front. They are clashing with the enemy, and the battles are constantly escalating. But they have yet to evolve into a complete engagement and an all-out war, which would split the enemy and force it to fight on 2 or more fronts. We are still demanding this from Hezbollah and from our friends in the Nation of Islam. We want the Arab communities in the West to be active, and we want cooperation with superpowers like China and Russia. For your information, Russia has benefited from our attack because we distracted the United States from them in Ukraine. China saw our attack as an example. The Russians told us on October 7th that what we did, they would teach. The Chinese are thinking of carrying out a plan in Taiwan, doing what Al-Qassam brigades did on October 7th. The Arabs are giving the world a master class.
There you have it, guys. I mean, Connected. Connected. And as we go further on, because Israel is not stopping. And I'm going to show you that in a moment. I put this on Patreon earlier today, but you guys need to see this if you did not see it. So there's Hamas talking. Now Benjamin Netanyahu. Now, like him, love him, hate him, whatever. He's showing good leadership, but these guys are not going to back down. It's done. And 3 minutes here. You need to listen to this before we close out. Here's Netanyahu. So as you watch this, think about what you just heard Hamas say. Think about what you heard Putin say. Oh, it's the U.S. It's Ukraine. It's the West operatives doing the stuff in Dagestan. Oh, the killing of innocent people down there. The hospitals, the doctors. That's Putin. You heard Hamas. Now, listen to Bibi here.
Until recently, many believed that the promise of progress in the 21st century would enable us to move beyond the barbaric horrors of the past towards a better and brilliant future. Many believed that we could go about our comfortable lives and that evil will simply pass us by. It will not. The horrors that Hamas perpetrated on October 7th remind us that we will not realize the promise of a better future unless we, the civilized world, are willing to fight the barbarians. Because the barbarians are willing to fight us. And their goal is clear. Shatter that promising future. Destroy all that we cherish. And usher in a world of fear and darkness. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a turning point for leaders and nations. It is time for all of us to decide if we are willing to fight for a future of hope and promise, or surrender to tyranny and terror. Now rest assured, Israel will fight. Since October 7th, Israel has been at war. Israel did not start this war. Israel did not want this war, but Israel will win this war. Hamas launched this war by perpetrating the worst savagery our people have seen since the Holocaust. Hamas murdered children in front of their parents, murdered parents in front of their children. They burned people alive. They raped women. They beheaded men. They tortured Holocaust survivors. They kidnapped babies. They committed the most horrific crimes imaginable. And they're part of the axis of evil that Iran has formed, an axis of terror that works by arming, training, and financing Hamas in Gaza, Hezbollah in Lebanon, the Houthis in Yemen, and other terror proxies throughout the Middle East and beyond the Middle East. In fighting Hamas and the Iranian axis of terror, Israel is fighting the enemies of civilization itself. Victory over these enemies begins with moral clarity. It begins with knowing the difference between good and evil, between right and wrong. It means making a moral distinction between the deliberate murder of the innocent and the unintentional casualties that accompany every legitimate war, even the most just war. It means holding Hamas responsible for the double war crime it commits every day by deliberately targeting Israeli civilians while deliberately using Palestinian civilians as human shields. It means making clear that the use of human shields is not only an immoral tactic of terror, but also an ineffective one. Because as long as Hamas's use of Palestinian human shields result in the international community blaming Israel, Hamas will continue to use it as a tool of terror, and so will others. Hamas will continue to use the basements in Gaza's hospitals as the command posts of its vast terror tunnel network. It will continue to use mosques as fortified military positions and weapon depots. It will continue to steal fuel and humanitarian assistance from UN facilities. While Israel is doing everything to get Palestinians, civilians, out of harm's way, Hamas is doing everything to keep Palestinian civilians in harm's way. Israel urges Palestinian civilians to leave the areas of armed conflict, while Hamas prevents those civilians from leaving those areas at gunpoint. Hamas is also preventing foreign nationals from leaving Gaza altogether. And most despicably, Hamas is holding over 200 Israeli hostages, including 33 children, holding them, terrorizing them, keeping them as hostages. Every civilized nation should stand with Israel in demanding that these hostages be freed immediately and freed unconditionally. I want to make clear Israel's position regarding a ceasefire. Just as the United States would not agree to a ceasefire after the bombing of Pearl Harbor or after the terrorist attack of 9/11, Israel will not agree to a cessation of hostilities with Hamas after the horrific attacks of October 7th. Calls for a ceasefire are calls for Israel to surrender to Hamas, to surrender to terrorism, to surrender to barbarism. That will not happen. Ladies and gentlemen, the Bible says that there is a time for peace and a time for war. This is a time for a war for our common future. Today we draw a line between the forces of civilization and the forces of barbarism. It is a time for everyone to decide where they stand. Israel will stand against the forces of barbarism until victory. I hope and pray that civilized nations everywhere will back this fight. Because Israel's fight is your fight. Because if Hamas and Iran's axis of evil win, you will be their next target. That's why Israel's victory will be your victory. But make no mistake, regardless of who stands with Israel, Israel will fight until this battle is won, and Israel will prevail. May God bless Israel, and may God bless all those who stand with Israel.
So there you have it, folks. It's powerful, and we'll see. I'm not going to sit here and try to predict. We shall see. Now, Ricochet, I appreciate your comment there. Actually, as we close out, then I'm going to show you all something about the drones right now flying in Ukraine. First of all, I think it's going to be really good. Listen, we support Ukraine, do peremoga, until victory. But we cannot also ignore what is happening in Israel, and we will not. We're helping them as well, and we go off the premise they're completely connected, and I believe that wholeheartedly, and we shall see as we go further. But to say, really interesting comment here, U.S. didn't start this war, Ukraine didn't start this war, Israel didn't start this war, take the land, claim it, live peacefully as you can. Now, how many times has Zelensky said the same thing Netanyahu said? We're fighting for Europe. Bibi says, we're fighting for the world against Hamas. Interesting parallel. Secondly, when I bring Karakuri, that's his name on here. He's a Palestinian. Going to be so interesting to hear him talk about Israel. You're not going to want to miss it. I promise you. So finally, let's go here, because I wanted to show you guys something. The drones are still flying. Let me give you a full screen. Kharkiv, Donetsk, but I want to really focus on something right here, and we'll see what happens. But I know what's going on here, and you do as well. Vinnytsia and Zhytomyr. But what I want you to look at here, you see that right there in the Khmelnytsky region? That is Starokonstantinov. That's the air base at Starokonstantinov. Public knowledge, everybody knows it, especially Russia. The drones are flying there. So there's reconnaissance going on. Could be a long night in Ukraine. So that's where we're at, and we'll keep you posted. If anything goes sideways, we'll go live at any time Thank you for sharing, commenting, doing all those things. Make sure you tell your friends and neighbors that we're trying to get the truth out, and we appreciate all of you guys very, very much. Be blessed. We'll see you in 48 hours, Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, if not before. You never know. Make sure you have the notifications on. Have a good night, and we'll see you soon.
Слава Україні!